And we are live. Welcome, welcome, thrice welcome to JWC Livestream. JWC Story Autopsy with Ricky and Tom. Special guest author Amber Danson. I'm Ricky. Hello, everyone.
Tom, how's everything?
Oh,
Hi, and I'm Amber.
welcome, Amber. Welcome, Tom. Magnificent that we could all get together again. It's quite a bit of rumbles in the world, but creativity, that's the key to keeping us all grounded amid the tumult. Um, we get together for this live stream and we talk creative shop, we do some reads, and we have a topic. It's a beautiful thing. um, Today I'll talk about my creative obsession. I've been putting all kinds of outlines together. I'm working on Chiron 6. I wrote 800 words of the sci-fi novel that I'm working on. Real trippy stuff. Um, my main characters are climbing down this tower right now. It's nice writing moody stuff about a tower at the North Pole. Lots of wind and ambience, and these little dudes are going down a basket on a chain, at one point, and the chain, it's. I love it, man. I love it. What we got so far is, yeah, and that's the other thing. I really want to write these. I don't know that there's enough of me to go around. If I had three of me writing, then maybe I'd be satisfied. So how are you guys doing? I mean, and I'm thrilled. I'm very grateful and satisfied by what's going on. I'm getting episodic satisfaction, but it's just never enough. So how about you guys? Amber, how you doing creatively? What have you been up to?
Well, I was watching some sort of show about ancient Egypt and got the idea the other day for a story about the ancient Egyptian idea of the afterlife, where all of the pharaohs are now the bottom rung people because their tombs have been raided and they don't have any of their stuff. And everyone who's been buried has what they've been buried with, and this one woman is trying to survive in the Egyptian afterlife.
Hmm.
The Western lands and the Duat. If you lose your mummy, you're in hot water.
Mm-hmm.
If anything should befoul your grave, your tomb, or penetrate your sarcophagus, ooh, things go downhill real quick. So I imagine you got that handled. Did I hear you earlier in the week mention the Egyptian Book of the Dead? Have you had a chance to peruse that?
I haven't had a chance to go get my mother's copy yet, but I can have permission to go over there pretty much any time and just raid her library.
And she has an occult library. How wonderful.
Yeah,
She's got
I
a
Um,
was
lot
gonna
of
mention
books.
that.
yeah, yeah. Well, that sounds awesome. When is it set? This Egypt book.
Um, I hadn't decided if I was going to set it in something like 2167 BC or if I was going to set it in a more modern world and have the modern world people who die go to the ancient Egypt afterlife and try to figure out what to do with themselves.
There's a lot of ways you could go with that. Modern cult who dabbles in the magic of ancient Kemet. Maybe they found some secret chamber in the ruins of Heliopolis, and they drum up some kind of spells, like they're an actual coven, and you could do. There's lots of ways to go. I'm sure you got a good handle on it. You normally do. Well, that sounds great. Sounds very satisfying. Tom, how have you been creatively? What are you swinging at, man?
Oh, really good. I am working on the Bride, uh, working on Emily, struggling with Amazon, trying to get my books to turn into KDP. I keep hitting a roadblock. The picture's no good. The file's corrupt. It's
Oh,
it's it's
yeah.
sad. I mean,
Yeah,
So,
I've known people who are having trouble with stuff like that, namely me.
yeah,
Uh, Whenever I ever tried to load KDP, forget it, man. It's a little above my pay grade when it comes to all that techno stuff.
well,
Um, so it's
I'm gonna keep
frustrating.
plugging. Also
Well,
about mummies, Amber. There were literally in that time, from that time period in Egypt, tens of thousands of mummies that existed. There were so many of them in every strata of their society, from the poorest people to the pharaohs. Everybody mummified their dead people. They buried them in the desert, and it was so dry. A couple of years, they would pop them up. Uncle Harry's a mummy now, and they would just put him wherever. In fact, they got so
human
bad
jerky.
the late 1800s,
Yeah.
the late 1800s, the Egyptians were using them as firewood, and
Yeah.
there was a big trade in this country with the snake oil salesmen. They were selling oil of mummy. They were getting these mummies like 10 cents a pound or whatever, and they were grinding them up and making this cure for arthritis. And so you could have a whole thing with all these mummies that are not all there, or the afterlife is crowded with the poor mummies, because there's a lot more poor than there were rich, and if everybody who was mummified went to the same place, it could get crowded. It's something to play with,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I I have a
So
new I have a lot of stories that I'm putting into the computer, and so I have one one for today that I'm making progress on, and one I made a brand new opening for that I'm going to, if it's on my, I think it's in my second Kindle book. I'm going to redo the manuscript and add this new beginning. Um, so
cool.
always working.
Yeah. So that sounds like a good thing. You must be going through old notebooks and voice typing that stuff up. So
Well, yeah.
yeah,
I
well,
found
that's great.
on creativity back in 1986, we met the director for Friday the 13th Part 6, and he
Oh,
had this thing going. He wanted to. They originally planned to make 13 films,
oh.
so this director wanted to get a concept together to do the next 7 and just round it all out. So we came to him and said we could do the next 7 films as a big series with these continuing characters, with Jason after them, it's vice versa, and just finish it off at chapter part 13. And he was very intrigued. He goes, "Write it up for me," and he sent it to me. He gave me his business card, and so we wrote it all up. We spent a whole summer doing it. Beautiful. It was these two teenagers from part 6 became sort of like the Van Helsing to Jason, where they were after him, and they knew how to destroy him. They just had to get a hold of him long enough to destroy him. And it was this whole big thing, sort of this cross country chase. Jason was like 2 steps ahead of them, and he would kill a bunch of people and then move on, and they would get to town, and all these people are dead. It was a pretty wild story, and we chopped it into 7 parts. At the very end, I won't tell you how they killed him, but they managed to dispatch him permanently. And
Who were you writing this with? Creatives you were rolling with at the time?
right, two fellow screenplay writers who unfortunately have passed away. But
And where did you meet the creator? Was that a Comic-Con or something
that was
like
at a
that?
killer theater convention in New York, and
Oh, cool.
he did a talk about the new direction of Friday the 13th, some kind of thing, and we really liked Part 6 is my favorite of all the Friday the 13th, because it was a takeoff on Frankenstein, and it was a really well done.
Hmm.
And we just ran with that whole Frankenstein idea. And so I found all the notes. It was in one of my file cabinets. I said, "This is really good stuff. I don't know what I'm ever going to do with it, but there you go.
It's amazing to go back into old notebooks, old files, and find your muses that if you hadn't written them down, you would have forgot them. You know, the lost treasure. Um, I know someone who's going through filing cabinets of gold right now, getting it all set up for a big right. It's very cool to do stuff like that. Well, as you can see, dear audience, we're all very creative. We're busy writing or going through ideas or whatever. The creative obsession never ends, and neither does the episodic satisfaction that arises from it. So we come to our next segment, which is our reads. Amber Danson, guest author. Do you have anything to read today?
Yes. I would like to read from more of the Shattered Sky. That's my big one that I'm really hoping will get my career launched.
Oh, right on, right on. Yeah, your dinos, which are always cool. Your non-human sentience is great to hear. So yeah, that'd be great if you could share that with us.
Yep.
Cool.
Dreams of Fire stands on a hilltop where she can command a good view of everything around her. She sees the jungle to one side, the sea to the other. The wind blows parallel to the sea. If she turns her nose to the wind, she can smell change, vast and disturbing change, something so big it will affect everything she knows. If she turns her nose the other way, fire streaks overhead, bigger and brighter than anything she has seen before. It burns the sky as it sails through, turning everything orange. The fire in the skies is more terrible and more terrifying than the biggest predator. She cowers to the ground, knowing death when she sees it. The fire crashes to the ground, fierce and fast. The deafening roar of the impact flattens the nearest plants and heralds the beginning of a deep, ominous rumbling. The ground she stands on vibrates, then shakes with a violence greater than any earthquake. She is flung from the rise, tumbling down the side as the ground bucks and rolls. She lies at the bottom of the hill, bruised and battered, but not badly hurt. All around her, the trees lie on the ground, flattened by the awesome force that has crashed to the earth. Above her, a column of smoke and dust rises higher and higher. The wind carries it, spreading it, blocking out the sun. The air grows colder, and she instinctively knows that the world has been changed forever. Dreams of Fire woke with a gasp, starting from the warm hollow where she had succumbed to exhaustion. She stared around wildly, then tilted her head backward and looked into the sun for a single searing moment. No cloud of ash and dust, no fire in the sky but the sun, no sign of the death she knew was headed her way. She huffed out a sigh and scented the wind. No smell of change. All she could smell was the richness of the greenery around her and the comforting scent of her only companion. "Are you hungry?" Howling Wind trotted up to her. "There are alphadons nearby. Between us, I'm sure we can corner one." "How long was I asleep?" Dreams of Fire asked, rubbing the side of her head against the rough bark of a nearby conifer to scratch off the flaking skin. "Not long." Howling Wind cocked her head, her crest bristling, then slicking down flat against her skull. "Are you sure you're all right?" Dreams of Fire shook herself, her feathers standing on end for a moment, even the tiny bits of down. Then she sleeked her feathers and sighed. "I'm the same as I've always been since the dream started. Maybe food will make me feel better." Howling Wind stroked her head along her sister's flank. "The alphadons are in the trees just up ahead. They've scented us but don't see us as a threat." "Then why don't you circle around ahead of them? Keep to cover, make as little noise as possible. I will drive them toward you." Howling Wind raised her crest, pleased with this idea, and darted off into the undergrowth. Dreams of Fire stretched as she waited, working the kinks out of her muscles. They had been on the move for a full cycle of the moon, and she hadn't slept much, because every time she fell asleep, she was haunted by the same dream. When she was sure she had given Howling Wind enough time to get into position, she stalked her way through the trees. Alphadon bodies sprouted a bizarre fluffy substance, softer and more densely packed than the hairs on some plants, and they dwelled in trees. Their tails acted as an extra arm, curling around branches and even able to hold their weight. But when they were flying through the branches in a panic, driven by a predator, often one or more would falter and end up in a lower branch where they could be easily caught. Dreams of Fire didn't care for Alphadon meat. Their weird skin got caught between her teeth, and that fluffy covering was most unpleasant on the tongue, but she was too hungry to be particular. She smelled them ahead and charged through the trees with a roar. The startled troop of Alphadons squealed, and, as she leaped for them, snapping her jaws on air, they took flight. They weren't smart enough to realize that she couldn't reach them unless she climbed, and they could climb higher than she could. She continued to chase them, leaping for the stragglers. They needed to be in a blind panic in order for Howling Wind to catch any of them. When she reached her sister, breathing hard, Howling Wind had one Alphadon dead at her feet and a second one caught in her jaws. Her bristling crest expressed how pleased she was with herself. Dreams of Fire flicked her crest up in praise of her sister's achievement and ripped the second Alphadon apart, gulping down chunks and crunching the small bones. One Alphadon was enough to fill her stomach, and though she was annoyed by the fur caught in her teeth, she felt immensely better. Do we need to keep going north? Howling Wind asked, licking blood from her muzzle. First, we need water. Dreams of Fire heaved a sigh. Then, yes, we will need to keep going. The dreams are getting stronger. Whatever it is, it's coming closer. I guess we can start going north and then see if we find water. Howling Wind's sigh echoed her sister's. Dreams of Fire rubbed her head against Howling Wind's, and the two of them set off through the brush together. Just a little bit.
Sweet. As usual.
Mm-hmm.
Last time. I mean, I love those dinos, man. What you're doing with anatomy, how you're talking about how they move, and you're giving us textures and blood. You know, we got a predatory thing, predator prey thing going on. Therefore, ecology, and yet they're socializing. It's really really good stuff. I love to hear about their preferences and the fact that this one is, having prophetic dreams. It's like Dino Prophecy or Dino Deja Vu or something. It's very cool. Tom, what did you think of that read, man?
It was very good. I love the details of their little interactions with each other. Um, I'm thinking that they're carnivores. Carnivores probably would have a little more exciting life than uh, the vegetarian dinosaurs, whatever you want to call them, herbivores. And there would be constantly, it would be a constant social construct of, who's going to be hunting today, who's going to be watching the young, etc. You know,
It's arranged more like an adventure, I'm assuming, when it's that way, because you have no lack of excitement with herbivores. It's just they pack together close,
yeah.
and then it's about, well, we're at the watering hole. You know what that means. It's always
half of us could drink and half of us keep a lookout.
yeah, and guard the young, venture, guard the old. It's all kinds of different features. It's almost uniform in nature, but I don't know. It's very, very cool. I dug it. Thank you for reading that, Amber. Always a pleasure. Now, Tom, how about you, man? Do you have anything to read for us today?
I do. I have a short piece of a new opening for a story. Um, and then I have the beginning of another story. So I'll read the really short, the new opening for A Clearing in the Woods.
Cool. Let's do it.
This is about the basic story is that there's some huge thing. Well, we'll see. Anyway, Harry turned over in his sleep. Something disturbed his dreams. He drove his souped-up Corvette in Le Mans, and he was winning when the thunder started. All the cars stopped to look at the horizon. Harry looked too, and then woke up. What the hell, he muttered. The entire forest seemed alive with noise. Countless branches snapped on top of the constant droning. This sound began to vibrate everything in the bedroom. Swift footfalls whooshed past his cabin. The forest teemed with animals on the move. A deer with an impressive set of antlers flew by. How he wished he had his rifle next to the bed. The buck stopped, would top off this quiet, restful week deep in the woods with Amy. His wife stirred. "What's going on?" she muttered. "I don't know," Harry said a little louder. The droning grew so loud that Harry began to panic. Something is outside, scaring the animals. "So what's breaking all the branches?" "Oh, is that what's breaking all the branches?" "I think so. I'll go look." "Be careful." Amy gasped as the window shattered in the living room, followed by something moving through and smashing the furniture. Harry moved to the closet and took his rifle and jacket. Amy ducked under the blankets as he opened the door. A black bear ran across the living room, joining the first one, who entangled itself from the lantern cord and leaped through a kitchen window. The living room was the scene of carnage. Everything lay smashed in the wake of the bears. As Harry watched, a pair of deer ran through the opening in the cabin side. Harry rushed to the gaping hole and stepped out. No more animals ran past. The noise made his head hurt. As he walked along the trail, a new presence took up the space 100 feet from him. Whatever it was, it blotted out the trees. A sharp burning of wood brought tears to his eyes. He fumbled in his pocket for his flashlight, shining the powerful beam in front of him. What he saw almost made him drop the light. A smooth, jet-black wall moved toward him. Trees and bushes fell over and passed under the enormous thing. Featureless, the wall would be at the cabin in less than a minute. He turned to yell for Amy to get out when he stopped moving. Every nerve in his body screamed for an instant. Then Harry fell over, lifeless. The machine continued on its way. It devoured the cabin, and Amy, without a thought. Behind it, nothing remained save the forest floor. So I wanted to make a little menace for the story at the beginning.
Yeah, man. Well, you succeeded. I mean, they're chilling. Everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Literally. And there's bears running. There's bears running. Now, bears run. I'm not saying they don't. I've seen a bear run from a bull moose. I've seen a bear run from a loud dog. I, even with my own eyes, saw a bear run when a woman yelled at it. But the forcefulness of the running, because they usually there's a little stick and move. You know, they don't want to run. They're not interested in that. They run when they need to. when there's like, oh, this is too much. So at first I'm like, oh, well, what could this be? And then this black unidentified wall, seemingly made of night, and it's coming closer. I mean, there's plenty of menace there. Really, really good stuff, man.
And the bears bears also, when they're running, if they see a cabin, they'll go around it. These bears say, I'm going at the straightest path possible. If it's through the house, so be it.
It's all in the conditioning, but this isn't conditioning. This is instinct. Yeah. This is flight. And it's going where it needs to go. That's my whole point. So there is no wall, there is no this, there is no that until it's able to escape. Good stuff. Real tasty. Amber, what'd you think of that read?
Very suspenseful and intense. That was really well done.
Yeah. Good.
Short,
good.
But I really enjoyed it.
I mean, Harry and Amy are definitely not characters of the story aside from, hey, what's that? Boom, done, they're gone. So.
Yeah.
Did you hear that
great.
noise? So
yeah.
I have one more short piece. This is a new one.
Yep.
Where is he? Oh, here it is.
Cool.
So this one is Dale and the Thing in the Pit.
Okay.
Right. This is just a first page or so. The summer proved to be a good one for Dale Tyler. A good amount of rain and plenty of sun gave rise to 120 acres of corn and wheat. The crop now burst with ripeness, juicy and delicious. Dale's heart swelled as he pictured his silos filled with ears of corn and wheat. The smell of fully ripened vegetation filled the air, reminding Dale of the rich harvest awaiting him. Dale didn't know that the storm was going to take him by surprise. The sun's edge sat on the horizon as he put the last of his horses in their corral. A great flash of light caught Dale's eyes as he finished the last of the hay bales. He tasted the ozone on the tip of his tongue, a tinge of copper running the back of his throat. A gust of wind brought Dale out of his daze. The past 4 days had been a blur of baling and binding 2 fields of hay. Dale felt the fatigue in his bones. He looked forward to a bowl of chili, and his wife's cornbread. Dale pictured the ribbons Jean Marie won for her cooking on the living room wall and smiled. She was a treasure, one that Dale appreciated every day. As he locked the corral, Dale gazed out to the west. A great mass of black storm clouds stood out in distinct contrast to the horizon below them. Strobes of lightning bounced inside of the darkness like a pinball machine. The low rumble of thunder rolled across the open plains, reminding Dale of a mad drummer. Dale watched the light show for a few moments. His fascination with rainstorms began as a 4-year-old, helping his father feed the chickens. Many a time, Dale's father had to drag the boy out of the rain more times than Dale could count. "You're looking to get struck by lightning, boy," his father told him time and time again. Dale's mother taught him the beauty of the world around him. "A storm's God's way of cleaning the world of sin," she always told anyone close to hear her. "The bigger the storm, the more sinning's been going on under it." She would always smile after these last words, as if she knew more about the county's sins than the rest of us. Lightning storms were Dale's favorite. The sheer beauty of the jagged lights was a small price to pay for the destruction the bolts sometimes caused. Not all lightning was destructive. Dale soon discovered. Here in the Midwest, small globes of light formed after a bolt struck the ground occasionally. The lights danced around as if they had a mind of their own. More often than not, the ball lightning traveled toward an object sitting on the ground. Dale saw them circle his tractor, grain silo, threshing machine, and even a horse. One ran up his flagpole and shot into his Texas flag, making a majestic halo around the Lone Star emblem. The flag glowed so bright Dale thought it was burning. In the morning, Dale discovered the flag intact. One night, 2 basketball-sized balls of lightning dropped from the sky and settled on the roof of his barn. They sat on the apex for several moments before rolling off one end. They entered the barn via the hayloft. As Dale watched in horror, bright flashes came from the horse stalls. Despite the danger, Dale ran to the barn and threw open the doors. He expected all of his horses to be dead. Instead, he found every horse unharmed. A sharp tang of ozone hung in the barn's air, causing his hair to stand on end. Dale thought he had seen everything a storm could produce. That was, until he spotted the purple glow dancing in the storm. He witnessed pale yellow, red, pure white, and even light green ball lightning over the ears. This object was unique. Jean would call the thing mauve, not the purple of Dale's choice. The storm clouds drifted without hurry across the darkening sky. The object drifted slower, in even less of a hurry, it seemed. Dale could hear the rain approaching, like a million tiny feet running at random, and they were moving right at him. Dale got inside the house seconds before the heavy drops hit. In the kitchen, the storm sounded like an explosion. He moved to the kitchen window to gaze outside, grabbing his binoculars. The tiny purple glow, now infused inside of the darkest clouds, appeared to become lost in the tempest swirl. As Dale watched, the purple spot dropped to the ground. His heart beat faster as the object broke free of the clouds. Now we got a better look at the thing. To Dale, it resembled a twisting ball of loose twine with a dozen ends hanging down and moving like snakes. It traveled across his field of vision, dropping lower as it moved. The last Dale saw of it was when it hovered directly over one of his fallow fields. When it dropped from Dale's sight, the area fell into darkness. "What you doing, honey?" asked Jean from behind him. He turned from the window with reluctance. She stood in the pale lights in her favorite flannel robe. She pulled her hair back, and a bit of lipstick still clung to her lips. She was beautiful. Something came down in the north field near the well. What sort of something? She sat at the table, and he joined her. It was a purple ball, like a enormous ball of twine. Ball lightning? Dunno, never seen it that color. Grandma Tyler probably did, at least once. I don't doubt it. Maybe I'll go take a look. In this rain? Wait till tomorrow. He looked over at her, taking her hand. Always the one with sense. At 3:15 a.m., the droning woke Dale. He tried to ignore it, but its buzzing annoyed him. With great care, Dale slipped out of bed and made his way to the kitchen. Staring out of the window, he saw a pulsing glow in the field where the purple light fell earlier. As it pulsed, the droning grew louder, then softer. Dale couldn't tell if the light turned green as it grew brighter or if the color of the grass was in front of it. Maybe you should go look, said Jean from behind him. She touched his arm. He relaxed and looked at her. That may not be a good idea, he said. Why? It's not raining, she whispered. Take Bully with you. And your shotgun. Dale took a look at the light. All right, I'll go look. No sense doing more than that till morning. Who's the one with sense now? The instant Bully stepped out onto the porch, his hair stood up. He growled deep in his throat and stopped. Come on now, Bully. There's nothing to be afraid of. With a bit of prodding, Dale got the dog to accompany him. Bully stayed at his master's side, moving no faster than Dale could walk. As Dale entered the tall grass, he sensed the air change. There was a low humming. As the light flashed past him, he could see the grass shimmering. Normally the sound of crickets and other critters filled the air. Now they weren't talking. The silence disturbed Dale, and he could hear his own breathing. Dale smelled the object before he saw it. The singe of ozone burned his nostrils. A dense mist rolled toward him, enveloping his shoes. Then it came into view. As Dale parted the grass, he found himself at the edge of a pit 10 feet deep. Something sat in the pit 6 inches above the ground. In the dark, it looked like a mass of swirling neon tubes. A sprinkle of rain fell on it, producing more of the mists. Dale thought of taking a shot at it, but lowered the rifle at the last second. The hissing reminded Dale of a snake he had found under a heavy log as a small boy. He had walked into the trees behind his school during recess. The temperature hit 100 degrees, and Dale loved it. Near the trail, he found a log. When Dale kicked the log, the snake poured out of the hole where it had been sleeping. Dale heard it and took off back to the school. A shiver ran down his spine at the memory. Dale withdrew as the hissing grew in intensity. He stumbled out of the field and ran back to the house. Jean stood watching in amazement as her husband locked all the doors and shuttered the windows. Something happened out there? Something, he muttered as he left the kitchen. Jean heard him check the lock on the front door as he placed a heavy old chair against it. Jean looked at the shuttered kitchen window and sat down to wait for Dale. She got up to put on a kettle and set up for tea. She smiled as she heard Dale move upstairs and secure the windows. Soon he came downstairs. He poured himself a cup of cider from the refrigerator and sat down. Are you all right? She said, taking his hand. Dale blew out his breath. I'm okay now. Can't say the same for the field out back. Bad? We'll know in the morning. So that's the opening.
Wow, what a voice. I mean, I love this story. It's got a classic UFO vibe to it with a little bit of Lovecraft. But your weather, man, your mood, real good, real weathery and moody. The details of the rain and the shifting of stuff besides the purple. You got a great situation where you've mystified the night. You're having them question, what the hell is that? Is that bald lightning? Is that, I've never seen it. And their heart space and their thoughts on the matter going back and forth, and the intimidation. First thing you think self-preservingly is, I'm not going out there. He's got iron besides. He could go out there and you give whatever it is air conditioning. But there's something about that night that he's like, I don't know. He's a no. I'm sure he's a no nonsense kind of person. Yet he's thinking twice, and I mean, it's a great situation for a reader to find. What is this called again? And this was the beginning of that.
Right, the very beginning. It's Dale and the Thing in the Pit.
What that's I want to hear more at some point. Amber, what did you think of that read, man?
Oh, I agree. I want I want to hear more about it. It was very well done, and the storm was just so vivid. I've been in
Hmm.
a ton of storms, pretty awesome storms when I lived in Texas, and just brought it
Oh,
back.
Yeah,
yeah.
dig it.
I kept when I was writing the story in the beginning. I kept Rich your idea in mind of what's it like outside. The visual the sensory details. I wanted to give that a whole lot. Just give a whole you know kind of a vivid pre-storm atmosphere. Um,
Yeah, the
you know,
transition of the weather, what you brought to us there, very, very poetically and authentically, like accurate. Like Amber said, you get wild weather. Wild weather is found in the transition. It's not that it's raining all day or that it's windy or sunny all day. It's just it starts off cool and then black clouds roll in,
right.
and in this case a lot more than black clouds. There's something mysterious laying in a crater.
Sure. I mean, I was
Yeah.
reminded of this back when I was a kid. I was out in Montana, and it was Montana's flat, like lots of Texas is. And we were standing, and all of a sudden, on the horizon, these clouds were coming, and I saw the storm coming directly at us, slowly but surely. Everything getting wet, and just and the same thing that the hearing the thunder get louder and louder, and the pitter patter of the raindrops, and I could have been Dale because I stayed until I got splattered, because it was so cool. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and I got warned. I said, "Hey, lightning, get in." So, but
Yeah.
the coolest thing to see a storm come and see the ground, say even 100 feet from you, 50 feet from you, the ground turn wet as you're staring at it. It's amazing.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
Florida's like that too.
Hmm. Yeah. Bright sun, black apocalyptic clouds, and a wall of water. Then, not even 40 minutes later, sun, and an hour later, it's dry like it never happened.
Right.
I remember. I've been there a few times. Yeah, the key, and you got it, Tom, the way you laid it out. The key with that kind of sensorium is experiential data. You go out, and if you want to write storms, be in a storm. If you want to write beautiful landscapes, go to a park and then sit there and do a poetic sketch where you're just sketching what you're seeing, you know, and it comes out marvelously, just like that example, with detail, and it's an immersive. It draws you into the story.
I try.
It
I really try to
Yeah,
get you in, into the night and the kitchen and the tea and and
yeah.
looking out the window and you know, where you know, his, the wife is concerned, but then she says, it's not raining. Why don't you go take a look? And she
Yeah,
goes,
yeah. Curiosity, sure. Well, that was a great read. Thanks a lot, Tom. Thank you both for those reads. Good stuff, as always. So for our final segment, we're going to the question of what kinds of publishing. Now, by that I mean when you dream about breaking through, about you writing, because all creative obsessors have a dream. The dream is authorship and publication, where your books are in stores and you're making it. And so, what kinds of publishing? We have our top business models for how we're proceeding. Um, Tom and I. We set this up a while ago. Um, Mine, and it probably makes me sound like a goose, but it's what I wrote at the time. Mine is exposure to stand alone, write what you want to read, and for street cred, because it's a word of mouth thing, which is like on the internet, it's another way of saying exposure. My other angle is get your books in print on Amazon for the purposes of generating a sales record. With the economy being as rascally as it is, people don't have a lot of capital to throw around. So they're going to want like almost a proof of concept in my mind. And that is, at least I know people who have shown their sales pages, like screenshots. And then if you're pitching a book to a publishing house, you're sending query letters and stuff. I can only imagine if they're interested in your stuff, like they've read it and they like it, and then you show them, well, look, this is what my other books are selling. Then it gives them like a proof of concept to go on and maybe pick you up. I don't know. Again, I'm no expert. I'm just swinging like anyone else with a dream. I have a philosophy for another angle. Each device is a purchase. It's just waiting to happen. So if you're in a city, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people walking around with phones. Any one of them can buy your book or download your ebook or whatever it is. And that's an important thing to remember. So that's one of the reasons that I do the live stream. Yeah. And then there's, that furthering of the concept is I'm not even too worried about legacy print, because having that phone that's a purchase cuts out the middleman. So why do I need a big publishing house? But I got to tell you, I'm interested in a big publishing house. That question is more for the people who aren't. We're trying to inspire them. Whoever wants to do vanity or on demand or however you want to call it type of publishing, we want to encourage them too. Not everyone is interested in publishing houses and legacy print, legacy media. Some people have their own way. So that's my little thing. No big deal. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm still early on in it. Once all my Masteroth books drop, and maybe some more Avternity novels and the other ones I'm publishing for JWC, then maybe I'll see better results. Who among us doesn't want a nice advance for a book idea that we have mostly outlined, that we know will be a joy to write? We all want that. Don't tell me you wouldn't go skipping down the street if you got something like that in your mailbox. I know I would. So onward, that was my contribution. Amber, when you think of the great dream, when it relates to what kinds of publishing, what's your take on that? Like, how do you see it happening, and what are your angles?
Well, me personally, I mostly write for fun. It's just, if I can make a living doing it, then I can just do what I enjoy most all the time. Bonus.
Yes, exactly. If it's your bliss and that's all you want to do, then why not make some scratch off of it? As you say, sustainability. That means I can do it more. So yeah, that's very logical, and I agree. I'm of a like mind with that. So when you break through, what do you think is going to do it?
Well, the Death's Nightmare series has only just started, and it hasn't really taken off. It's got a lot of competition, other thrillers. Everybody's looking at thrillers. There's thousands and thousands of thrillers out there.
Yes.
The Shattered Sky is the only dinosaur novel I've seen besides Raptor Red, and it is the only dinosaur apocalypse novel I can find.
Wow, that is a great angle. Hasten the day. because every time you read it, I want to hear more. I got to get a hold of that PDF, I think. So yeah, and God bless you. I hope you make it as soon as possible. So that's fantastic. Tom,
Yes.
when you ask yourself in the late hours of the night, what kinds of publishing will lead me to my dream coming true? What is your dream anyway? Like, how do you see it happening?
Growing up, I always wanted to be a part of a big publishing house because back then that's all there was, right? Past say 8 to 10 years, publishing has evolved. That's a better way to
Mm,
put it. So I sort of have a hybrid approach where I'm putting earlier works on Kindle because it's probably good for exposure, etc. And
mm,
every single one that I put up there, I do a cross promotion of the others, 99 cents, free, whatever. But I have the Curious Journey of Emily Breck, which I really would love to find a traditional house for, uh,
yeah.
because I think it's worth the effort for that book. And so I'm pursuing that. Um, and I may put the first novel of that trilogy on Kindle, and so that it's there and people could read it, and I can send a link to an agent, let's say, or what have you, and you know, and this I'm reading more and more stories about people getting picked up by traditional publishers from agents seeing their stuff on their Kindle and on Drafted Digital and on Smashwords and etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Barnes and Noble. Is it Barnes and Noble? Yeah. So
Yeah. You were saying a couple meetings ago that you read somewhere that if you put a series up, that agents go prowling through to see about that. So I would imagine if you got a big long series up, and they were then to see your sales records, I can't imagine how that's not going to improve your chances of getting where you want to be, which
sure.
is dream come true.
I mean,
We're in print, you
right
know.
now, don't get me wrong. I would opt for a traditional house, publishing all the time, because that gets your book into the brick and mortar shops, the Barnes and Nobles, and the small bookshops, and
Yeah,
etc. And it's that gets seen. I won't say no matter where it is, but if it's a new book, especially say near me, if I tell them, I say, hey, my book is just going to be published. If you wanted to, I could come by and sign some books, or you could pick a tabletop, local author, sign copies, whatever. I mean,
yep, yep.
and the traditional publishers have access to the professional editors. They have cover artists. They have you know, in their very often in their own house. So, um,
Yeah, it's
I've
no
been
it's no small thing to embrace for regionalization. You have a chance for a global presence. Maybe you get a big fan base in Germany or Japan
right,
or in Latin America. Then it would be, well, translations, audiobooks. How is some random creative supposed to absorb all that costs? Because I don't know about you, my dream is to make a big glass crater in writing, like to leave a big impact impression, lots of stuff, prolific, multiple languages, multiple platforms, and audiobooks, everything, just so it can survive whatever, you
sure.
know. Um,
But with a traditional publisher, um, you have to have your ego in check, because no matter what you
no,
think of the cover, what you think of the editing, what you think of the back of the book blurb, if they like it, they'll make changes to it, and you have to suck it up. If you want to see your book in print, otherwise they'll say, "Thank you. thank you for letting us read it. Good luck. So I
No,
know somebody
I know.
who was in the publishing business. He says if someone finds it and they really like it and they want it, you have to. The more willing you are to help them publicize your own book, the better. More willing to go to bookstores and be willing to go on tour, be willing to go to conventions or whatever they publishing conventions, etc. The more willing you are to do that, and they like the book, the greater the chance you'll get something. You'll get a good deal. You'll get you'll get attention. You'll get mostly what you want out of the book. If they change the cover, you have to say thank you very much. Because they might think it's better.
No, I
etc.
know,
So,
I know. See, covers, it's easy peasy. My whole thing is content and creative control. One of the reasons that I was always interested in the newer publication is you. It seems to me that you have more creative control. And it's one thing for an editor to explain flaws in the text. It's another thing for them to micromanage and say, well, could you do this demographically?
oh
We
yeah.
want you, we need more of this. Could you make it like this one?
Could you make
The
this
more,
character X? If
yeah,
you
that's,
want, or
oof.
it's like so.
Yeah, that's what's wrong with a lot of things today, media
Mm,
wise and IP wise, is the concept of that kind of corporate micromanagement, because then you get stuff that's derivative, and the genius is lost. You need a little artistic madness every once in a while. It can't just be all demographic analysis. And well, if you could sell it like this, if you could do it like this, make it like this one, it annihilates the creative spark. And
that
then
that's
what's the
true.
point? What's the point?
Some
So
people some people can't handle that. Their egos just say, "No, I am not going to change this character, say from a man to a woman, or I'm not going to give her a talking cat because it would not fit in this story, or whatever." Right? Um,
yeah, yeah. No, I
but
get it.
yeah, it's how much you really want. How much do you really want to be in print versus how your artistic vision um, your artistic vision could just be your opinion, and it could just make could I would be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that they could improve the book, make it
Yeah,
more, without cutting its legs off.
yeah.
Um,
Some of it's ego. You're definitely right. Some of it is the artistic integrity that comes with long creative obsession, and you have to make a deal with your muse in order
mm-hmm,
for it to keep flowing. There has to be a faithfulness there.
right.
It's one thing. I take advice. When I first started all this, it wasn't always so easy. But I definitely take advice. And if some big publishing house came calling, well, if they want me to write a book, they can tell me how they want me to write it. I won't refuse. I won't be spiteful. But if it's something I've written that I'm fond of, it's a lot harder to change
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But if they get me early, I'll be fine.
See, the
It's
key.
like just a
Yeah.
challenge then.
The key is with the publishing house, like anything, what you have is a commodity. If they say,
Hmm.
"Oh, the Curious Journey of Emily Breck. We love this book. We want to give you a contract for all three of them." As soon as you sign that contract, that book is no longer yours. It's theirs. They can
Yeah,
do with what they
spooky,
want,
right? Spooky. I know.
right?
Well, that is still, it would be even trade once, especially if that book should spread wings and take flight and really sell big. Then your foot's in the door at that point.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So
If
your
you play
older
ball and
stuff.
the first one,
Yep.
it's not to your satisfaction, but you smile and just say, "I'm happy to be here." The next
Hmm.
one they might get you to have a little more of your say, a little more of your art, your vision,
Right on.
peek through there, which it, it happens. I mean, I'm sure.
So
So go ahead.
no, we're almost out of time for today's episode. These shows, they go by. Time flies when you're having fun, when you're staying creative. Time goes like a bullet train. So plugs, which is why one of the big reasons we're here is to get our writing out there. That's to make the dream come true. There's no other way. So Amber, what are you plugging today?
Well, right now I have Death's Nightmare out, still on sale for the ebook on Amazon. I've got Death's Gamble, the sequel, up for pre-order on Amazon, and I'm wanting everyone to keep their eyes open for The Shattered Sky, which I'm launching December 1st.
Excellent. And that's
Right.
on Amazon, right?
Yep.
Amber Danson, check it out. You heard her reads. Give her a swing. Tom, what are you plugging today?
I have I have two collections of short stories. Dwellers in the Shadows, and the second one is called Is It Still Out There? Available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo. You could go
Cool.
to Smashwords. I'm trying to cover all my bases. If you look for it, you should be able to find it.
Multiple platforms mean nice networking for your searches. It's
Sure.
probably very wise to do such a thing. I may have to see about that myself.
It's easy to do once you do some homework. Maybe we could do that in a few weeks on where.
Yeah, that might be interesting. Leave some messages in the comments, folks, about such things if you're interested in us talking about that. And any other topics, ideas, feel free to drop them and suggest them on our YouTube. Go to Joe's Writers Club, go to our YouTube and like and subscribe, please. We're trying to grow those numbers. Before I get into that, I am selling a book. It's through Amazon, but it's a JWC publication. It's called Babbletron After the Fire. Babbletron After the Fire. Richard Andrew Olkus. It's a dystopian cyberpunk book. Lots of high-speed action. AI, genetic engineering, post-humans, industrial wilderness and sprawl, deadly turns, action and violence. Check it out. Babbletron After the Fire. And join up at joeswriters.club for our forums and our community, our writers community. We have meetings if you sign up there, joeswriters.club, we have meetings on Tuesday Eastern time, 7 to 9 p.m., where we do reads and stuff, and we talk about concepts. We just started a brand new project. It's lots of fun. Come join us, joeswriters.club, and go to joeswritersclub.com. Check out our author pages and our blogs. Lots of really cool stuff going on. We'd love for you to join us and become creative obsessors like we are. So thanks again for listening to JWC Story Autopsy with Ricky and Tom and special guest author Amber Danson. We'll see you soon, probably next week. Everybody take care, all right?
Be seeing you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. It was